Welcome back to a video. Today it's another day of being Jasper. Sun's out, blue skies out. And here's another day of not knowing what to do with existence. What do you do with your existence, eh? Well, you have fun, don't you? You have fun. I think what can become tricky with myself and probably a lot of people is that we think that we have to be doing something really fucking extraordinary to have fun. And we can compare ourselves to other people's lives. And we have these really high standards for enjoying life, when actually it's really the little things that you can enjoy just as much. You know, because I think a lot of the time I can feel quite guilty and feel bad about myself that I'm not doing these like really extraordinary things. Like I'm not going out there and doing what I need to do, like going out and meeting new people, or going out and making films and music and promoting that shit and fucking traveling the world and living this like really rich lifestyle that you see on like every YouTube motivational speech where it's like you know what I mean, like those self-improvement and motivational YouTube videos where it's like just go and live your life, stop worrying, get rid of all the stress, like get out of bed, start exercising, like all this shit. And that's great, but what is it that you actually want to do? Because for me, I feel a lot of the time that I fall into other people's expectations of what a good life is. It seems like a lot of people have expectations for me. It's like, oh, Jasper, like you're a good filmmaker, you're a good musician, you're creative, you're talented, and they've got all these expectations of me to just kind of, do something with my life. Sort of like, like, oh, you should like pursue music or film and make a living out of it, make money out of it. It's all kind of like centered around like money and purpose, but they confuse purpose with career choice. And if you're not really doing anything in life, people look at you and they're like, think you're slack or lazy or just, I don't know. But the way I see life is that it's just about it's about the little things. It's about the sun on my face and the fresh air And I get caught in this cycle of these thoughts of like, you're doing nothing. Like, what are you doing? Just, like, doing nothing. Like, you just, like, here I am, just like going for a walk and just spending time by myself and like, not really doing anything. Going on the internet, eating food, going for walks. Like, I get caught in the cycle of like, oh, I need to be fucking doing stuff. But the truth is that I do stuff. I do stuff. It's not like I do nothing. I am making music. I'm making films. I am doing my best to get out there and meet new people as much as possible with my own conditioning. But like, I don't know, like it's... People are too focused on doing and they forget that they're being. They forget that they're even alive and are able to experience doingness. The way I see it is that these things are going to come. And it's a natural progression. As time goes on, I can see the natural progression of what's folding out. Everything is unfolding perfectly. And to be fair, I do have this motivation, this drive to go and achieve a lot of shit and live this like extraordinary lifestyle that's rich of adventure and happiness and shit. But at the same time, I realize that there's so much resistance in me. There's so much that goes against that that doesn't allow me to do that. And people don't take this into account at all. They say just like, stop watching porn, stop going on social media, start waking up early, start exercising, start going out and meeting new people, start doing what you love, start making money out of what you love, start traveling, start living your best fucking life and your best version of yourself. And of course everyone fucking wants to do this. But people never acknowledge enough why people aren't even doing this. The very fact is that people are fucking stressed, and it's not so easy to just get out of bed in the morning and exercise and eat healthy and interact with people and start doing what you love and making a business out of what you love and making money from that. It's not that easy. And that's not me being a pessimist, that's me being realistic. And I'm not saying just don't strive for it. Just like forget about it, just fucking stay in bed and eat junk food all day. I'm saying try as hard as you can, but don't fucking beat yourself up if you can't do it, because the very fact is that we're given this life to go through these obstacles, this grand vision that we have for our lives isn't just an easy 1, 2, 3 step, you got it. There are obstacles in the way. I think, what happens is people feel guilty that they can't get there as quick as they want to, and that they're falling back into negative habits and addictions. Like, maybe one week they're like fucking exercising, eating healthy, having great interactions with people and doing what they love and just like having a fucking great productive week, and they're like fucking changing their lives, ditching their old bad habits and starting up these new healthy habits. But then what happens is the next week they fall back, and then you start feeling guilty. It's like, oh, what the fuck's happened here? But that is precisely still the same journey. You haven't fallen off the path. It still is the path you're on. The thing is, we're all doing the best that we can. And no one really remembers this. Everyone thinks, well, no, because I've seen you do better. I've seen you do better. You can do better. But of course, no. Because if they could do better, then they would be doing better. I used to get this shit on my report card in school all the time. It would be like, Jasper has potential, but he mucks around in class. And like, I've seen Jasper's potential, but he needs to use it more in class. It's like, no, this is the full potential I have. Otherwise, I would be given my full potential. You know, like, this is the full potential I have. Otherwise, you would see more of me. Like, I mean, the funny thing is, yeah, true, I did have potential at school, but the truth is that school was shit and I didn't want to use my full potential there. And that was my full potential because I saw the corruptiveness in the education system. I didn't want to fucking use all my energy on that for just some bullshit piece of paper or something. So anyway, I don't know even what I was fucking talking about in this video. I don't know what I'm talking about. I suppose it's just like, you wake up in the morning each day and it's like, oh fuck, like how am I going to get to that place that I'm trying to get to, you know? That's right, how you go? Going away. So you wake up in the morning each day. And you're always like trying to like strive towards this place, and you know, you instantly see that you're not there already, and it's like, oh fuck, you know, you've got this expectation of where you want to be. And then you come back to where you are, and there's this big gap, and it's like, oh, I've got so much work to do. Trying to fucking remember what I was saying. Basically, we're in a society and culture that prides itself on productivity, on just doing, working hard, you know? Working fucking 10 hours a day, non-stop. And we don't acknowledge or appreciate the being side of things. Just being alive and smelling the tea and just mindfully sipping that, having the sun on your face and just waking up. Just actually waking up. You know how many people don't wake up each day? You know how many people die that go to sleep and never wake up? Like, that's something to be grateful for straight off the bat, that you wake up and you're alive. And so this is yeah, like, everybody's different. Some people are really good and love to work fucking hard and love to go straight for their dreams and work fucking 10 hours a day and shit. But there are other people like me who just want to kind of take it slow and enjoy life as it's going along and not be like feeling like I have to produce something or I have to do anything. Even that I have to do anything. Like, I want to be able to feel like I don't have to do anything to earn my own self-worth and self-respect. I don't want to have to be like, I'll only see myself as worthy and only respect myself if I can do this and this and this and this and this. This needs to come before anything else. You need to see your own self-worth and self-respect before you can do anything else. And you need to have self-worth and self-respect on the basis that you're just a living being that's worthy of love. Unconditionally. You have to see that you're deserving of love without having to do anything to earn that. You've already earned it. You don't need to do anything to earn it. It's already within you. And so you've got to realize this first before you can actually do anything, because then it will be like you're not doing stuff with the intention of, well, when I do this, then I'll feel respectful of myself and worthy. Because then you'll never feel respectful or worthy of yourself. You I don't know. It's a hard thing, balancing this act of doing and being. I mean, this is fucking beautiful. I mean, look at this fucking mountain in the back of me. I mean, you can't really see that great on film, but it's just amazing that shit even exists. It's just, I'm able to view that. It's fucking amazing, like, when you look at mountains and shit. Like, when I look at that, it's like, that's just like a big hill. It's just like right in front of me. Like, I can fucking touch it. Like, I can just, like, I'm so connected to the land. Like, I am the land, I am that mountain. It's like a sandbox. It's like, I'm in like God mode in a game, and I'm like, I can pick up these trees and I can pick up a mountain, and it's really hard to explain, but like, a lot of the time when I look at the mountain and shit, like in the distance, it's just like this 2D, just like blank canvas, like just this 2D image, like just a background. And there's like no depth to it. But what's really fucking fascinating and fulfilling is when you can start to see how the land here is gradually becoming that mountain. And that mountain is like so hard to explain. It's like I'm really fucking fascinated with its size. Because usually I look at the mountain, it's like this flat 2D image, but it's really fucking sick when you can see the depth within it. And you can see that that's actually there, that's real, like that's not just a flat image, that's actually here. It takes a lot of presence to look at it that way. It really does. It's really like it's really like you're in like everything, like you're in the whole like space that surrounds the solidity of this material, whatever. It's like you really get in touch with being in space, like occupying this space and recognizing that it's so fucking hard to say what I'm feeling. There's like no fucking language for it, there's no words. I remember though, just like when I went to a trip to England in 2018, and I was there for about a month, and I just remember coming back here to Australia and appreciating this place, because it's really quite different to England. Like, it's really peaceful and really just, it's a different land. And yeah, I realized how much I fucking took this for granted. And that's when I first really saw the depth of the mountain. I really saw that I was in this shit. Like, it's like I'm in, like, because I look around, there are like hills surrounding me, like all around. I'm like in this indentation. It's like these mountains here, and I'm like in the middle of here, and it's like before I was looking at it as kind of just like, here's the ground and here's sort of like the sky with the mountains. It's just like, here's the foreground and here's the background. And it's just like this kind of flat thing, just kind of like that. But then when I you can get to a place where you kind of see it, where it's like, it's all part of the thing, and it's like, it's got this depth to it, and it's so fucking hard to explain. And then like the other thing is like size. Playing around with size is so fun, because it's like you can imagine yourself as this tiny little ant, or like this tiny little fucking bacteria or cell or some shit, and like this whole thing, or just like pretending like this whole thing that I'm on right now is like this tiny little like rock, and like all this like grass around me is like, I don't know, like fucking mold or some shit. But you know what I mean? Like this, just like this whole thing that I'm in is like really tiny. It's just like a cell or a little bacteria thing, and I'm just like this little tiny thing on this tiny little thing. You know, because our whole universe could be a tiny little cell in an animal's body, some shit like that. When you view it like that, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around like the whole universe, but if you just do it with like your surroundings, and you look at like the mountain, and you look at like the curvature of it, and you know, the trees, and you look at the trees as like one tree is like a blade of grass. Like, here we go. Like, there's that. Imagine that a tree is this size, and so you're that size. You're really tiny. And if you look around and pretend, kind of like feel into that, and it's like, oh shit, I'm like this really tiny little thing just having fun. Like, just like there's so much freedom in that, you know? Like, because you're really small. You know, like your problems aren't so big anymore. You see how fucking like small you are. Like, you look at an ant, and you know, you step on it, and it's like, oh well, an ant. Like, who fucking gives a shit? I stepped on an ant. Fucking whatever. Like, no one's like, I stepped on an ant. No, what have I done? Fuck, this ant's life is gone. Fucking hell. No one does that shit. It's just like, oh, I stepped on an ant. Whatever. When you can see your life in that perspective, when you can see that you're just an ant, you're just this tiny little thing, then all your problems feel so much more flexible. It's like not this big dreading thing. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just free to do whatever. And so really, a human life is no more important than an ant's life. The fact that we grieve over a human's life and not an ant's life is because we are human, and we understand what it's like to be human, and we have this immense amount of self-awareness. But in the grand scheme of things, when you can zoom out and look at your size and look at how fucking small you are, then really, in the grand scheme of things, no, your life's no more important than an ant. Who is to say, you know? Who is to say? Only humans can say anything, and of course they're going to be biased about this shit because they're human. So yeah, this is really fucking interesting, is that you can perceive yourself as like this really small thing. And then what's, you know, really interesting, like, you're perceiving yourself as this really small thing, like you're expanding your consciousness, your awareness, like, out, and you're like visualizing your awareness as this expansive thing, and you're just like in this tiny little thing. And that's when it becomes kind of trippy. It's like, okay, so I'm this consciousness in a human being. I'm not a human being. I'm playing the role of a human being. And if you take this kind of thought experiment and you think about, say, what it would be like to be an ant, then what it looks like now to a human, this is what it would look like to an ant. Like the same size would look like to an ant, except an ant would be experiencing like, the thing is, like, there's no size. Like, size is relative. Like, things are only small because I'm this size. Things are only small in relation to the human size. Things are only big in relation to the human size. And so it's the same for, say, an ant. Is that I would be big to an ant, but basically it would be no different. Like, their size is, it's so fucking hard to explain this shit. It's really a felt thing. It's like, whoa, man. But what I'm trying to say is that there's size is like, well, it's relative. Basically, you're always one size. There are always going to be things smaller than you, and there are always going to be things bigger than you. You can go infinitely smaller. It keeps going infinitely smaller. And you can go infinitely bigger. It keeps going out and out. And so your size is always relative. You can't be the smallest thing. You can't be the biggest thing. There's always something bigger than you. There's always something smaller than you. And so basically, you are all sizes and no sizes at the same time. It's just like it's all relative. It doesn't actually matter. I don't know if I'm making sense. So yeah, that's the other interesting thing, is that you can imagine yourself as this big giant, like, because to an ant, you're fucking huge. You're a giant. And that's interesting when you can look at like the grass around you, and you can look at like all these like tiny little like bushes or these like blades of grass, and imagine that they're like big trees and like these big things, and you're just like this big giant, and like this like tiny little hill that's like that size. Like to an ant, it's like that fucking mountain, but to you it's just like this one step. And you can like imagine you're this giant, like just stepping up this massive hill to an ant. It's like really fucking puny to you. You're just like, like this fucking giant. And so that's interesting. Playing around with size is interesting. Imagining you're a giant climbing these massive hills, but not massive to you. Or imagine you're really small. And that's, I think, being really small is quite freeing. I guess it's different for everyone, but for me, this fact that I'm small is quite freeing, because it's like, what's my place in the universe? If I'm so fucking small, what the fuck is this? And at first it can be quite scary. It's like quite nihilistic. It's like there's no meaning for me. I'm this tiny little fucking thing in the universe. What the fuck is the point of this? But then you realize it's like, oh, there's no point. Oh, so there's no point in me worrying about the shit that I'm worrying about. Because, if there's no meaning, then there's no meaning. There's no meaning to these problems that I have in my head. So that's one way you can think of it, is that it allows you to be free. It's like that problem of I got to talk to my crush. Oh, it's this big thing. I've got to say something to my crush. When you zoom out and see how small you are, it's like, this is the most pathetic thing to ever fucking think about. When you see how fucking small you are, this tiny little small act. But of course, like, you can't just bypass it that easy. Like, everything is relative. These problems that you do have, like, I can't talk to my crush. These problems that you have are still big relatively to the problem. So you can zoom out and see how fucking small your problem is and how stupid it is. But at the same time, you can't just use that against yourself. You do have to validate that this problem is a problem for you. But it's still humbling to zoom out and see how small it is. Because it's really all relative, size. How big or how small of a problem it is. Sometimes the problem is really like the same problem. On some days, I've got like reoccurring problems. On some days, it's like, who gives a shit about that? That's like, that doesn't need to be looked at all. Like, that's not even a problem. What am I doing? I'm just gonna live life. But on other days, it's like this big, overwhelming thing. It's like, oh, fuck. So it's really like relative, you know. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to keep these things in mind, you know. Most people are not waking up every day and thinking about how small the earth is and how small they are, because in their own perception, it's not that way, is it? Because you are in this human. You are perceiving life as this human. You're not perceiving life as like God looking down at the universe and you can just like hold earth in your hand. Like, that's not how you perceive reality. You are in this human, and to your perception, it isn't that the universe is really like, it isn't that you're really small in this big vast universe. Basically, it is that the universe is really fucking big and the earth is really big, you know, because to you the earth is fucking humongous. But so yeah, like that's the other thing, is that you have to kind of treat it like this. It's that it's all about the relative and the absolute. Is that you have to remember and realize how insignificant you are and how meaningless you are, how, you know, all this shit. But also you have to realize that you are actually playing this game of this human, and you're playing this relative game. So yeah, thanks for watching.